Now I've got my blocks in place, and I just put the perimeter beam down for the floor of this garden shed, and I put everything on blocks, and that really took me a little bit longer than I thought it would. I guess I could have put this wood straight on the ground, but as a general rule, even if it's treated wood, I don't like to have it to have direct ground contact with wood, because over time it'll rot. So I put concrete blocks underneath it, and the challenge was this ground is relatively level, but it's not perfectly level, so I had to make sure every block was level with my first one. And then once I got the perimeter put around it, now I'm just trying to fill in with the floor joist in between. Now I'll admit, I made this floor a lot heavier than it needed to be, but I had this material left over from another project, so I had it available. I didn't have to go and rebuy it. But the advantage is, when I put my walls in place, instead of just driving it to the rim joist with nails, I can actually use screws and make that connection point a little bit stronger. Here in Texas, we don't worry so much about snow loads, but what we do worry about is wind, because in the spring, severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, everything like that pops up. So I want to make sure I build this thing stout enough where if it gets blown away, it's gonna have to blow away the whole thing, floor and all. And so this floor is really heavy, so I think it'll be here for a while to come. Now when I put these beams in place, I only had to worry about a couple more things. Number one, I use these long timber screws to attach the beams to each other, and these things go in quick. They're super strong, and I just put one in each corner for now, because the second thing I needed to do is to make sure this platform is square. And the way I did that was simply the X method. So in other words, I measured from one corner to the opposite corner of that and took the measurement, and then did the other corners. And then if those corners end up being the exact same measurement, then you know you've got your building square. And so this building square, I'm going to go ahead and lay in the rest of the joists and get those ready to go. After that, I'll put my decking on. This floor will be done. I'll be ready to stand up walls. Now, one big consideration I had with working with these beams is how to cut them. Now, what I did was, these beams are 85 inches a piece, the ones I have to cut. And so I just made a mark at 85 inches all the way around. And then using my circular saw, I cut as deep as it would cut all the way around. Now, it won't cut all the way through, so to finish that cut, I just used a reciprocating saw and cut the rest of the way. And that gave me a pretty clean cut that would attach well to these rest of these floor beams. Now, the next thing I'll do is cut my floor joist. Like the inside beams, these are 85 inches long. I've already measured that just to confirm that, but it shouldn't be any different. This floor is square, 85 inches long. I'll use the air nailer to tack these into place. But one of the things you want to do when you're putting in floor joists is you want to look down the board, hold it up on its edge, look down the board, and look for that crown. Every piece of lumber will have a natural crown, and so you want the bow of that crown to go up. It won't be an extreme bow. If it is, you got a bad piece of lumber, but it'll slightly bow up. So we're going to put the crown up on this. And then one of the things I went ahead and did on this is I pre-marked where each one of the floor joists are going to be. Now, when I mark stuff like this, what I'll go ahead and do is measure to 16. I'm going to put these on 16-inch centers. Again, this floor is being built overkill. Typically, on construction like this, you'd use maybe a 2x6 rim joists around it, and then 2x6 floor joists on every 24-inch center. But this one I decided to go ahead and put on 16-inch centers, because I only need 7 floor joists on this. Just makes sense to try to beef it up as much as I can. But if I put it on center, the trick is I measure to 16 inches, but not just on not put my mark there, but measure 16 3/4, go 3/4 past it, then I put a mark across. And the reason why I do that is it's a lot easier to line up the edge of a board on this line than it is to try to line up the middle of the board on 16-inch center. So every time you have multiple 16, so 16 3/4, 32 3/4, 48 3/4, and then so on all the way down through here. Make sure you do it the exact same on both sides, so that way your floor joists run parallel with the ends of the beams, and then we're off to the races, ready to go. So once I get these floor joists put in, then we're ready to put in the last step of this floor and put the flooring down. So here we go. The floor is complete. After I got the whole floor framed in, all I did was I took 3/4 inch plywood, put construction adhesive on top of the joist, and then laid the 3/4 inch plywood down on top of it, and then nailed it in. Now, I said it earlier in the video, I know this floor is overkill. I've got those big 6-inch beams that run the perimeter. I've got my floor joists on 16-inch centers. I used 3/4 inch plywood, this glued and nailed to the joist. But you know, if you build a good foundation, the rest of the building will survive forever. So that was my thought. But we got the floor done. Next step is we got to start framing the walls.